Welcome, everyone. This is Glenda Dawson, and we have Haley Overseth here, my co
Hi.
host. Welcome to Glenda's Dragon's Den. Today, we have someone who everybody enjoys so much. We had to have him come back because we never finished the conversation. What can I say? Our discussions got so entangled and so excited that we just,
But it was perfect
We ran out of
timing. It
time.
really
yeah,
was
it was.
because we
Uh-huh.
had some big full moon energy, y'all, and we need to talk to Ty about it because we got
Yeah.
some empath friends out there who don't
Mhm.
know what to do with themselves. And that, listen, y'all, it's tough when you feel the energies, but you don't necessarily know where they're coming from, and you
Yes.
can't admit to yourself that you've got that empathic
Exactly.
intuition. So, Ty,
Exactly.
help us. Help.
Never.
Absolutely. There's so much going on right now with the change of seasons and the darkness coming in. You've got you've
Right.
got seasonal disorders that people are affected by, and as it gets
Mhm.
darker and colder, people are a little bit more withdrawn. So they come back from their long day at work into traffic, and they step in the house with all this energy, and not always positive. So that radiates out. And those of the empath world have are just
Mhm.
receivers of all that energy, and they don't know necessarily that it's coming from outside of them. But all of a sudden,
Mhm.
they're playing with their toys or reading a book and watching TV, and all of a sudden, they're feeling these things that aren't isn't so pleasant. So
Yes.
that's why I think it's really important, which is fantastic that you guys have this podcast, because you're making them aware of the powerful beings that they are. Right, they've got these
Mhm.
skills, or they will have these skills, and that they should have these skills in order to recognize that the pains and the emotions and the things that are bringing them down aren't necessarily theirs.
Right.
Now, one of the things to do is first to recognize that it's not yours. and
Mhm.
and one way is to do some introspection, and a lot of people don't like to do that because it's not always fun, because we don't like what we might find. A lot of people in old school days, don't cry about this, don't show emotion.
Yeah.
Well, I
Yeah.
think we're kind of dying out of that kind of an era, at least certainly in this kind of a crowd. Um, but
It has to
recognize.
start somewhere, right? Like
Yeah.
we
Yeah,
got to start a
yeah,
space somewhere where people recognize that emotions are natural, and expressing and feeling them is natural. And when you bottle
exactly.
them up, that's when you start to
Well,
have those energetic and physical problems.
Right.
absolutely, and that's just a natural it's one of the characteristics of being in this physical, meat bag, right? You've got all
Mhm.
these abilities, but also with it are these amazing emotions. And if you don't process through them the way they are meant to go through you, and I say through you as in you receive stimulus, you process it in a certain way, you emote, and the emotion gets radiated out and gets repurposed into new energies. That's not always the
Mhm.
case. Some of us
Mhm.
like stuff it down and deal with it later because I don't want to expose myself. I'm worried about judgment, or I'm worried about how my spouse or my girlfriend, boyfriend, whatever will think if I,
Mhm.
allow this to express itself in its most natural way. And that's a bad place to be. So
Mhm.
as we've kind of briefly talked about, when you don't express those things, they get stuffed down, and they find a home. They find a home in your physical body, and attached to an organ of some sort, whether it's a limb, a muscle, a major
Mhm.
organ, and it stays there. And until you release it, it's hanging on to that organ, and it's interfering with the flow of energy to that organ,
Right.
multiple organs.
Right.
Once you interfere with a flow, and we're talking traditional Chinese medicine now, the
Mhm.
meridians.
Right.
Yep.
Um, Once you throw a boulder in the river, well, the energy has to find a different way that slows down the energy first of all, but the
Mhm.
energy is not going to stop, but it slows it down, and it becomes restricted, and restriction causes pain and other issues. Left
Mhm.
unaddressed, you become um, deceased.
Mhm.
So,
Yep.
so it's important to have recognition that this interference that I'm feeling in my body is or isn't mine. How do we do that? Well, I'm feeling angry. I wasn't a moment ago, but when Dad got home, I'm all of a sudden angry, and I haven't even seen him yet. But I know he's here because I heard the story. Okay, well then ask yourself, is there any reason for me to feel this way? That's the very first thing. Do I have a reason for this? Can I tie it back to some event, some memory, something? And the answer will typically be no. Then assume it's not yours, let it go. And how do you let it go? Well, there are all sorts of different ways. One way that I find very useful is, first of all, if there is a story tied to this, let's say it's jealousy, let's say it's anger. If you have a story tied to it, then that's going to hold it there. That's the kind of the glue, that's the plaster on it that holds it in place. So strip that away because it has no business anymore. The story is just something that you keep telling yourself to put it in place. So let the story go. Just feel where it physically exists in your body. Like just close your eyes and feel it. Where is it? Is it my stomach, in my ribs, in my chest? It typically, it might be in your heart chakra area across your chest. If it's jealousy, if it's an anger, you might feel it in your kidneys, in your liver, in your stomach. Feelers in your stomach, butterflies, right? And once you have it located on your physical body, now you can start releasing it. Now you can breathe into it. And we were talking earlier about being generic and esoteric about the terms of the things that we do in the spiritual world.
Yeah.
What does that actually mean? It means, imagine your breathing apparatus, your nose and your mouth, down into the area that you felt the pain or the emotion. Just in a meditative state, just kind of move those guys down there and start breathing in and out through the emotions in that part of the body. Now you'll notice
think of it a little bit as like giving that emotion some airtime, right? Like broadcast airtime, like the podcast, right?
There you go.
Like, hey, maybe you just need to be seen and have your bit heard. So like, all right,
there you go.
Breathe into it, give it some airtime.
Well, Haley, that's a brilliant observation, a point, because oftentimes it is not necessarily this amount of work that you have to do, and that wasn't very much work, but oftentimes it's just recognizing that it's there. Once you recognize it's there, it has nothing to hold on to. It's basically something that's looking for a home. It's something that bounced off somebody else. It's trying to find a home. You've recognized it, and the recognition of it, the identification of it is sometimes enough because it hasn't landed yet. It's still kind of flying around looking for a home. But those that have kind of, dug roots, that's when we dig a little deeper and do something like what I was just mentioning, breathing into it. Now, the breathing into it thing, that involves just what I mentioned, moving your breathing apparatus down into the area, breathing through it. And as you breathe through it, conscious breathing is a very, very powerful thing because breathing moves energy. But, and of course you're breathing all the time. How do you not breathe, right? Well, when we say breathe into something, we're saying consciously breathe into it. Like be aware that you're breathing into it, not just like automatically breathing. You don't think about that, but this is consciously doing it. So you breathe through it. And as you do, you'll find that the sensation will start to dissipate. Now and you do that until it's gone. And then, and it usually won't take that much time. It'll disappear unless you keep grabbing at the tendrils of the story that's holding it there. It's important that you let go of the story, because the story is really, it's something that you fabricate in your mind to hold it there. My girlfriend did this. Oh, I can't believe she did that. She probably did it for this reason and that reason. You know, my dad beat me because he thought whatever. You know, we tell ourselves things.
Right.
But anyway, and that's one way to actually deal with emotion. And then it's gone. It's gone. You may have it come back in a certain way, but that's just another layer of this vast onion, because it may be that this thing has been around a lot longer than you might realize. You might have brought it in, you know, since birth.
Right.
So
well, and those are.
Go on.
Sorry, go ahead, Glenda.
Well, it's just like when we were working together, Ty, where you found something that I had from birth, and I kept bringing it through till now, or till the time we worked together.
Exactly.
And once I let it go, it's like, why have I been holding on? I didn't even realize I was holding on to something.
You didn't even know it was there.
No. So it was very interesting, and what a release of energy. It really was.
Well, and that's that is the exciting part, that you can breathe into it. And again, like in my mind, kind of imagine like, you know, a river stream, or like the current of air becoming that sort of flow of the river of all the good that is meant to come to you, that you're supposed to be receiving, instead of that negative emotion. Because again, like you're saying, the stories that we hold on to are where they come from. But we all know that, again, in this space, at least, have an understanding of, you know, we truly are just energy signatures. Like these human suits we occupy are just temporary vessels, so that we can learn things about the energy signature that we are and expand that. Right. So how can I have belief structures at all that would impede me if I'm not actually this human in my entirety? Right. Like that's just a small part of all the things that I really am.
Absolutely. And I keep wanting to dovetail into this bigger talk, but I don't think we're ready for that yet. And it's something, it's a little bit deeper to, I want to just touch on.
I was going to say, let's talk about it, because I mean, listen,
now you're ready. You're already hooked us in.
Right?
You're stuck now. Okay, so now you're stuck.
Now you're stuck. You're just going to have to come back again.
Yep. So I don't know if you, a lot of what I've learned to feel is true is from an entity called Bashar. But a lot of people listen to Abraham Hicks. You know, they've been around, the two of them have been around for about the same amount of time.
Right.
Love them both. But Bashar is the guy that, he's this alien that gets channeled by Daryl Anka. And I love what he says, because my brain processes what he gives me so much better. And what he talks about is the raw mechanics of the universe. And he has something called the formula, which is a five-step set of things that you would do to navigate life as smoothly as possible.
Right.
And it actually was 4, and then he added another one.
Right.
But and we can talk, I do want to talk about that. But first, going back to the thing that I was going to talk about is when one of the things he mentions is that every billionth of a second, a billion times per second, we change to a reality that more closely matches our resonance. That reality is another Earth, almost identical to the one you're in, with maybe one molecule difference, one slight difference, or it could be a vast difference. It depends on the shift of your frequency. So there's multiple frequencies going on. You've got a harmonic resonant frequency that is unique to each of you, to each of us. That is your unique signature. And if you talk to aliens, if you've or dealt with them in any way, you know that they don't have names. Right. So they recognize each other by the unique signature of energy.
Right.
Well, then there's the other resonant frequencies that you emit as you change, as you climb the spiritual ladder, as we say, right? As you climb the spiritual ladder, your resonance increases. And we all know that a higher frequency is better, right?
Right.
We just want that. Well, as you change this frequency, you switch to a new reality that closely matches that resonance. So let's say all of a sudden, this dovetails right into law of attraction. Let's say I believe wholeheartedly that I own a house with a white picket fence, and there's a horse on it, and it's this big, and it's got 2 cars in it, and I know it. There's no question in my mind that that's what I live in. If I get in meditative state and I change my resonance to match exactly that, I will switch to that reality, because there's no choice. That's how we navigate. That's how, 1 billion times per second you're changing to another a reality that matches. And that reality, by the way, is static. It's not moving. It's like a frame in a picture. And this is where we get into time, the illusion of time. We're doing it, it's happening so fast, literally billions of times per second, that when our minds think about it, we can't notice that we're doing it because it's happening so fast. There's so subtle changes. But
it's like the film strip, right? That's the image I always think of, is like you have one single picture, one single frame, but it moves through so quickly. It gives you the illusion of movement, the illusion of continuity, the illusion of linearity. But in the universe and in quantum physics as well, the quantum physics equation works in both directions, right? Time isn't actually real. You can shift backwards or forwards and things equal out in the same way. Like reality works in that same way.
Right.
Yes, absolutely. And well, something that I wanted to add to it was that you are actually a brand new human. You're a brand new Haley. You're a brand new Glenda every billionth of a second. So now, equipped with that knowledge, and it might take a little while to just let that sink in, but if you accept that as truth, which I have, now you can start changing your reality in a different way. You know, okay, because you read all those law of attraction books. Okay, you do your vision boards and you meditate. I own this, and I this, and do all the things.
This is where I perceive myself to be. This is where I would like to perceive myself to be, and that's the only real difference, is that this is what I perceive right now, and then this is what I would prefer to perceive. And experience. Yes.
Yeah. You gotta make sure you stay out of the want, because that leads to not having, and which is a lack, which is now the resonance. You're emitting lack. And that's the reality you'll draw towards.
Well, maybe that's what it is. You just got to be like, y'all, it's just, again, going back to, sorry, this is how my brain works, went to film school, but like, you're just changing the camera angle is all it is, right? Like you just got to shift that perspective and perception, that camera angle, to something else. And then that's your reality. Like, my reality right now is this backdrop with the art, but if I turn it around, you're going to have a different reality. Like over here, there's the reality where the couch is at, right? Where's the reality where your picket fence White House is at? Well, you just turn the camera to look over there. Then what's the camera? Right here.
Bingo. Exactly. And if you take that as the truth, now you can say to yourself in the morning, all right, what kind of reality do I want to be a part of today? Like what reality do I want to be a part of? And if you do a morning meditation, which I do, your brain is nice and clean. It's settled from getting up. You've got, typically within the first half hour is when you want to dive into a meditation, if that's your thing. But now you can set the stage for the day and possibly for the rest of your life. So I want the reality. I'm going to set the reality to be where everything flows in my direction. Everything is going to roll my way. abundance, all my desires are going to be here. They're going to be right here. And this is the thing that he talks about, is that we don't have to spend so much time drawing things to us that don't exist. What we have to do is spend, they're already here and now, because there is only here and now. What we have to do is focus on the belief systems that show us that we can't have those things. That's what we have to work on. Mm-hmm. So we all have belief systems that say something like, oh, well, I don't believe I can achieve these.
Let me tie this back in a little bit to the collective, because I think this is a spot that a lot of people are at too. And I think this is a conversation that I'd like to have with you, given the sort of empath, where we started and kind of where we're going with this, like, create your own reality. Right. That in that realm of being an empath, though, it is so very important to be stable within yourself and discern where things come from. Because, for example, like we were talking about, 9 to 5 regular work jobs, right? The structure of society that we have currently, with the work structures that are expected of us, don't fit most people anymore. Nobody wants to do it anymore. Nobody's interested. This paradigm doesn't fit us anymore, right? Yeah. But as empaths, you feel sort of trapped in this paradigm, because you do feel so resonantly empathetic towards people who are struggling in those sort of spaces, right? And you want to sort of be the lighthouse to help on some level, and be able to, be someone who is of service. But so how do you as an empath deal with that kind of, like, being attached to the collective? Or even if you think in terms of just things that are going on in the world, or the things that you absorb watching the news, you are taking on all these emotions and things that tie you into these collective paradigms that may not actually have anything to do with what you believe is true about yourself. Yes, you hit on some really strong points there. Connecting into news and media and world events and taking that stuff in. Don't do that. Don't do it. Don't do it. It's just more stories that you'll keep telling yourself, and then you keep experiencing it. Right. Yes, exactly. Don't turn on the news. Don't listen to the news. I know it's going to be like, hey, how am I going to know what's going on in the world? Well, you'll know. You will know. Yeah. The world will interact with you. The world is going to reflect what you make yourself a part of. So if you start changing the frequency such that the world is a much nicer, calmer, happier place, that's the world that you're going to shift to, and that's what you'll be a part of. It doesn't mean that you have to deny the things that are going on in the world, but you don't have to own that stuff. When you own it, you're like worry and fear and guilt and all those things. We talked last week about the map of consciousness that from David Hawkins' book, Power versus Force. He gauged emotions on an energetic level, and anything below 200, and 200 is courage. Below that, there's pride, there's desire, fear, grief, apathy, guilt, those things. And anything below 200 drains you. It physically drains you of energy. So if you listen to the news, you're going to inherit those emotions and you're going to get drained. And how do you go to work? If you start your day with that kind of crap, how are you going to go to work with, an uplift? And then you go to work and interact with people who are having conversations about these same things that you are are interacting with that aren't helpful. And it just compounds and reinforces that story. And it becomes more dense because you're reinforcing. And that's, maybe you want to, I don't know if you want to touch on that a little bit. That's maybe, again, too far into the quantum physics version of it, but it's, again, very important just for people to recognize, like you're saying, that it doesn't all come from you, and you can choose what it is that you are consuming. Because it's the same as consumption of products and services that we do. Like, you consume information, you consume data, you consume energy of the stories that are out there and available for you to be aware of and experience. Beautiful. And now, kind of dovetailing back to what we were talking about, that power, the conscious decision of not listening to the news, is the same conscious action that you'll take when you decide not to accept energies from anybody that you don't want to. So you can just set an intention. An intention is just an act or a thought that you do before some kind of an action. And you just say,
no energies can enter my field that are at or below my own frequency. That'll do you. That'll set you straight. That means nobody angry is going to affect you. Nobody sad. Nobody. Now, as an empath, you're going to recognize as being one of those people that people come to and they unload their problem.
Yes, 100%. Lost to a flame.
Yeah. Right?
Sometimes, and this isn't like, and for those of you out there who are empaths who don't understand it, and I know some of them personally close to me, but the idea that sometimes the people that come to you like that moth to a flame, they start spilling their guts before they realize they've got things out of their mouth. And sometimes I've experienced this where they don't even remember that they spilled so much to me. They don't remember that they spat all that out talking to me. It just came out, and they like.
Yeah.
And sorry to interrupt, but the reason why
tell me.
Because they've unloaded it. It's no longer part of them. It's part of you. Right. And that's why they feel so great when they leave talking to you, because they don't have that anymore. It's gone. Right. They've unloaded it. And that's why every Monday, John from accounting is going to come over to Glenda's desk and start letting it out. And then he feels great. And you're kind of like, oh God, how do I listen to this?
Energy vampires, right? Colin Robinson from What We Do in the Shadows. Very, yeah.
And how do I avoid Mondays?
Well, right. So the one trick that I learned, you find the happiest person that you know in your business, and you find them on Monday, and then you start hanging with them, and you're uplifting them, they uplift you, and then you're locked in for the day. Nobody can bring you down. You just have to avoid those people that are looking to unload their stuff
and drain you. Because they drain you. And
now,
it's not that you're not willing to listen, but unfortunately, sometimes they don't realize that every single time they see you, there is just what I call vomiting. Not just chatting and spending time and sharing thoughts or sharing experiences. Oh, it was great this weekend. Never when it's a good time do they come to share with you. Right. It's only when they had these terrible weekends, they had these fights and all that other stuff. Yeah.
Because you're the garbage disposal for them. They come to you.
Nobody calls customer service because they're happy.
Yeah, exactly. Now, Haley, you also touched on something else that was quite important, and that is empaths are usually in a place of service to others, are usually in like an occupation of service to others or side hobbies of that. And more often than not, they're like, well, I want to help. How could I not help this poor soul? And that's why they're in that service mentality. Well, that's a beautiful thing. I mean, service to others. That's a beautiful thing. What's not so beautiful is not allowing yourself to recharge to perform those acts and not saying no.
Yep.
And this is one of the things that I found in so many empaths. They didn't realize that they were allowed to say no. They said, well, I still got some life in me. I can still help that person. No, you can't. You can't, because you're depleting, you're already down below 25% energy. So you've got nothing to give. You're using that to survive. And what are you going to do for them? You've got nothing to give them, but you still try. And that's not a valiant thing. That's a bad thing to do. So it's
a conditioned thing. It's one of those things that as an empath, you have been conditioned. It's something that I think it's because so many people expect it of you. You come to expect it of yourself. It's again, because you're an empath, you take that on. They expect me to be supportive of them. They expect me to be the pillar that holds them up. I can't let them down. Because now I expect it of me. While, like you're saying though, if you are your own support system, if you've got cracks in the foundation, you're going to crumble and then you can't support anybody.
Right. Exactly.
Right. And that's expectations. That's another big thing, and not honoring your own boundaries. So boundaries are a big thing. You've got to have them, and then you've got to recognize them, and you've got to honor them.
Mm-hmm.
So that's where self-love comes in. We say so many times, well, once, if you're broken up from a person, a lot of times we will try to heal that pain that we're feeling by connecting to another person. Well, that's the unfortunate path that a lot of people go down. But they're going to keep attracting the same kind of people that abuse them, or whatever the pattern is for them. What has to happen is you have to heal the things in yourself first, so that you don't need anybody. You're not looking for somebody else to fill that void. And then when you're happy with being alone and be by yourself, now you're a really good candidate to find somebody. And your resonance is raised up. So you're going to get a higher quality of people, because you're drawing people of the same caliber towards you.
Right. Exactly.
Yeah.
It's basically what I tell my students. Same thing. You have to love yourself enough to recognize when something is not right for you.
Right. And if you're finding...
Well, no, I was going to go ahead. I was going to say that's a whole other topic we have to talk about. Self-love, as, I think people kind of don't understand how to properly do self-love, right? Like we distract ourselves. Sure, we're good at, I will distract myself from this as a way to cope, right? But the self-love, there is, like you said, that level of acceptance of things. That distraction is really just, it's the opposite of acceptance, right? It's, I ignore it. I don't want to look at it. I don't want to deal with it. Whereas the acceptance of it, and I think people sometimes think that doing the shadow work has to be painful, traumatic, difficult. And this is, again, kind of where I'm looking to flip the paradigm in whatever way I can. That, like, it's got to be more fun than that. There's got to be more fun, easy, playful ways that you can get in there and look for those things and have support systems where it's not such a dark, scary nightmare scenario. Like, yes, horror movies do exist, but don't some of us love watching them? Like, can we find a way to enjoy that part of it, right, in that kind of a way, in a playful, more sort of creative way, so that it's easier to approach?
Beautiful. I love that, because the idea of making shadow work fun is beautiful. And because a lot of people like, oh, shadow work, yeah, I've heard of that. It's like dark, and then you have these horror stories. Yeah, I did 3 years of shadow work and I'm still not through it. Okay, well, it doesn't. You're right. It doesn't have to be that way, and it's just a matter of, first of all, honoring the boundaries, recognizing, don't allow any more crap in. So there's a good spot to start, guys. Just like put some boundaries up in the field. Listen, I got a hot mess in here and I got to sort it out. So can everybody just give me a minute? Right. Sort it out. Don't allow any more stuff in the bucket that you need to clean out. And then start doing the things like what I mentioned earlier. Just breathe through the emotion. Done. Okay. Cool. That was pretty quick. It's going to come up again, but fine. Just take a few moments, take away the story. The problem is the story, and this is the thing that came to me. I'll tell you why this came to me. A friend of mine had cancer, and she was coming over for some work, and I meditated that day, and I'm like, well, what should I do? What do I need to do to work on her? Well, I was shown to work on these emotions. I'm like, okay, well, I do that, but what else? There's got to be something more. Well, I was shown this method that I guided her through, and it was actually really cool. So what I was shown was her sitting. We were in the backyard. I have a really like a foresty backyard. We were sitting back there. Yeah. And I am. I'm very fortunate. I manifested this. But anyway, so I was shown her sitting there, and then as my astral self or her astral self, we'd walk over to her and look for the emotion that most needs being dealt with, and just ask to be shown where it is. Like, where is it physically on that being over there? Go over there and start putting your hands around it and tactily, like physically, with your astral self, taking it and pulling it out, and then and turning it into white light, like repurposing it into new energy. It's just energy, right?
Right.
Take it out, repurpose it into white light, release it to the ether. And then I taught her to do that. And she said it was a magnificent guided meditation, because now she's got a tool to go home with. And that seemed to resonate with her. So that's where this came from. This being, take away the story, go in and feel it where it is in your body, and then breathe through it. 3 simple steps. And that's when I started working on it. I recognized that there was a story there. So I said, okay, well, there's no point in that. That's not really serving a purpose. It's just gluing it there. So get rid of that. And that's it. Now, Haley, you can hand these instructions off, and this is only one way to do it. This is the way I do it, but you've probably got other ways that are simple and not painful, and they don't have to take up a lot of time. But I will say, the most powerful tool you have is your imagination. That was
absolutely,
and it works.
And that's why when you get into your creative state, that's such a flow state. And that's when a lot of people are able to sort of have epiphanies, go draw for a while, it can be aimless play, people. It doesn't have to be anything that has and this is, I think, part of the thing that people think something needs to come of it, right? It's sort of like you need a dollar amount for the product kind of thing, right? Like you need to have a quantitative, measurable something in order to say this is done. And it's like, well, it doesn't quite work that way, because again, you're the one who decides when it's done ultimately, right? So there's that element too of having to stop sort of overthinking things a little bit, right? And that's where some of the play and creativity comes in. If you're just having fun, you're not overthinking what you're doing, you're enjoying yourself, and those solutions just like bubble up.
Beautiful. Yeah. And the idea is, if you can stay in a high resonance of fun, if you can stay in fun, all this stuff becomes easy. It becomes playful, and it becomes a joyous thing to do. But if you're already in a kind of a dark state and you have no motivation, and that's a hard place to want to start fixing things. You want to be able to get yourself into a higher, elevated state of emotion first. And some of us just can't get there. Might have depression, might have something very heavy going on in your world.
Right. Yeah, I found that the best way for me was just doodling, just doodle, doodle, and then all of a sudden I'm like, why am I even like so down or whatever? Just goes away. So through the pen.
Put yourself into the now moment by doodling.
Exactly.
And that, when you're in the now, there is no past stories. There's no future anxiety. There's now.
Exactly.
Those don't exist. So that's brilliant.
Yeah, and it also, it's funny because at the same time I channel. Oh yeah, okay.
But that's really the great part. You do start channeling when you get into that creative flow. But and I understand what you're saying, because I've been there too, where it's very difficult to want to, when you're in that heavier density, whether it's depression or anxiety or whatever it is that you're dealing with, you don't have enough interest in doing those things to like get up and actually start doing them, right? And that's, I mean, that is where you do sort of have to just go back to a very basic, and I think like you're talking about breathing into the emotion,
right?
And just allow yourself to feel it and accept it, because the harder you push things away like that, it's the more you're gonna feed it energy, right? And I understand it's one of those things that vexes you when you're in that space, because you're like, all I want is to stop thinking the thoughts that make me feel this way, and all I can do is think the thoughts that make me feel this way. It's such a difficult loop to get in. But that is where, energy healers like yourselves come into play, where we weren't meant to do this human ride all by ourselves. We're built for connection. We're supposed to do this together. It takes a village. And that's That's why we create these spaces for these podcasts to have these conversations. Yep. And that's why you do the energy healing and the different things that you do, because that, you know, we all need a little help sometimes, y'all, and that's okay.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Exactly. But you know, thinking about, instead of where the emotion is coming from and then focusing around that emotion, how would you want to feel? If you say how I want to feel, okay, well, what would that feel like to feel free of this heaviness in a really blissful state? What would that feel like? And then just for a moment, you're going to feel it. You're going to feel uplifted. You're going to feel like that has gone. Those heavy emotions are gone just for that fraction of a second. And then once you recognize that, that's the place you want to be, and you want to bring it into the now. That's the state now. Bring it now, and then and think about, oh, okay, I like that. I'm just going to see if I can stretch that moment out for a few more moments.
Right.
So whatever gets your state of being in a uplifted place. In some cases, you can draw on another person that you know is just abounding with love and inspiration and energy, or you know, your son, your daughter, your dog. Once in a while, I'll think of, like, there's this playpen where you can lie down and they'll release a whole bunch of puppies, and they'll just be
I mean, you can't be unhappy when you got puppies all over you. Like, come on, like, go. I'm for that.
You don't have dark energies don't have a chance in that kind of environment.
No. And bless the canine consciousness that comes to interact with humans. We don't deserve them. We love them so much.
Right. I know.
And we have to thank the cats, because, you know, they got some connection to the spirit world, but man.
Yeah.
Oh, cats, for sure.
Yeah, they're the spiky ones. They're the spiky ones of the spirit world.
Yeah.
Oh, they're all beautiful around and to have. And so, since we're on the topic of dogs briefly, in some cases, you can look at the dog, the physical state of the dog, to know what the owner has in emotions or medical issues. Because the dogs will be they're hyper empathic. They'll take away from you anything they can. And if you've got some kind of debilitating disease, it's not going to be as bad with a dog around, but the dog is going to suffer. So whoever is the owner, whoever the dog sees as the owner, as its owner, is the one that is it's pulling these energies from. So if you look at the dog and it's sick, go look at that owner and get to work on it.
Yeah. No, I had an emotional support dog. So
you do?
I did. Yeah. I did. It passed away. My last two dogs passed away actually within 4 days of each other in May.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Are you going to get another?
What was that?
Are you going to get another?
I don't plan to.
Okay.
And that is why I'm staying away from all pet stores and all anybody who has puppies.
No,
because I walk in and I know what's going to happen. I'm going to be dragging something out.
Once upon a time in North Carolina, up to 7 dogs.
Oh, my goodness.
Like sucker and a half right here.
Nice.
Yes.
They found me. 2 of them were strays that I found that had been dumped during hurricane season, and I always adopted from Humane Society. So yeah, same thing. I can't go volunteer at Humane Societies because I'll take them all home.
I used to volunteer in this shelter to do Reiki on the animals, and it was very hard walking out without somebody. I was like, no, I have a whole baseball team at home. No, thank you.
Right.
It's hard. You want to take them all in.
Yeah. But you got to know when it's best not to.
Well, that's again going back to knowing yourself well enough to know what you can actually handle, and not spreading yourself too thin, even if it is a good and great, wonderful thing to volunteer in Humane Society. even that can be overwhelming to you as an empath. To be like you said before, that you're in positions of service, or you tend to want to be of service, but then don't recognize when it's becoming something that is no longer serving you in a mutual way, and then your service can't be the highest that you have to give.
Right. Basically, you got to take your turn. You got to learn when you need to recharge and say, nope, I'm staying away from everything. I'm staying away from everyone, even for a day.
And people think that that's a selfish thing to do. Oh, I need to be out there. My friends are calling on me, or my mom needs my help, or my dad needs. No, not when you're depleted.
No.
Priority is you, and that's just the way it is. There's no question. And people and however they judge you, that's fine, because that's their judgment, and that's something on them. It has nothing to do with you. Because if it was somebody else, they'd still be judging. It's the same judgment on them from them. It's still their. So don't worry about judgment. It's most important that you are selfish, and not in a negative way.
Right, but that's just a sign that you love yourself enough to recognize when you are depleted and you need to recharge, so you can then continue to help others. So it's one of those things. If you into service, that's what you have to do. You got to take your turn. I make an appointment with myself. Okay, I'm taking a nap. Like yesterday, I took a nap, and I actually put it in my book. I'm taking a nap, and I'm
gonna give myself a nice little rest.
Oh, and I needed it.
I bet you did.
Yeah.
So it's those seasoned people like yourself that have a conscious awareness of needing the recharging and honoring those boundaries and supplying what you need, whatever it is you need to do. And those are the people that have that under control, that can go and volunteer at the Humane Society and deal with the ups and downs of the emotions that that inevitably occurred there. But
one of the reasons I had to stop being a paralegal, because it was too much.
No, I get it. It is a lot when you keep interacting with energies that are not necessarily fully aligned and resonant to you, even though you do want to be of support, and again, you do want to sort of do what you feel is the right thing. But again, who decides or defines what the right thing is? You have to define that for yourself, and that may not look like the right thing to anyone else in your sphere. And sometimes maybe that's because those people don't belong in your sphere, right? Or that.
There you go.
It's just.
There you go.
That's true, and that's a good segue to recognize that as you start to enable these tools and put in these boundaries and recharge yourself, your resonance goes up. As your resonance goes up, you're going to find that the people that you're hanging around may not be so attractive anymore. Now you have to make a decision. If they don't decide to, keep up with your frequency, they're going to fall away, and they're going to go their own direction. And you have to make a choice. Do you want to stay where you're at and hang with them? Or do you want to allow them to carry on their own path, and you be the best version of yourself to reflect that out? And they can see, hey, why is Haley so happy all the time? Why is Glenda so glowing all the time? She's doing these things. I want to find out what she's doing. And then they'll start to, resonate at that frequency, or they won't. Who knows? But it's got to be okay with allowing them to choose their own path while you climb this ladder.
And it gives them give them the opportunity to see that. To recognize it and know that there is more than where they are at.
Yes, exactly. And that's the other bonus, is that it's not selfish, because you're actually giving this. You become this amazing creature that's radiating out all this, whatever it is in your individual. If it's just radiance, if it's light, if it's wisdom, if it's happiness, it doesn't matter. It'll reflect out, and they'll see that. And you're giving it to them with no expectations, no insistence. You can have this. not tying myself to any decisions you make. It's yours if you want it. I'll show you how to do this.
Right. Exactly. So I'm gonna ask you to tell our audience where they could find you, like on Facebook and stuff like that. And
I'm on Yep, there's my Facebook link. I don't have a page yet of my own, but
don't worry, we'll help you.
You have
we'll
a
get
group,
it figured out.
Yeah, yes, I have a group. I have a Facebook group, Vibe Life Academy, and I created it a long time ago to just post ideas and thoughts and stuff. And there's anybody who wants to join can join. It's just like request to come in, and I'll fire you in. I love people in there. And there's my Instagram, right?
Instagram, yeah, and then
any other social medias that I don't know.
Email, so people can email you directly if they have any questions.
Tylee
Do you have? Oh, sorry? Yes. Tylee.dalton@gmail.com. Do you have other things coming up that people should be aware of? Any retreats you want to let people know you might have planned or coming up, or any other things coming out?
I am doing this QHHT, this quantum healing hypnosis technique stuff. And that's a Dolores Cannon modality, which is fantastic. So I'm still kind of in the training phases of that. I need 8 more people, which I've already got a list of people to get through. Each section is like 6 hours. But I love doing that because it gets us to their higher self, and then we get to talk to their higher self, and we say whatever questions they bring, we'll get them answered. But also the rubber hits the road when we say, hey, higher self of this person, can you fix the ailment? Can you fix the bad eye? Can you fix the pain? Can you fix the gut, the cancer that they have? Yeah, I'll just fix that right now. Thank you very much. Let's move on to the next thing. And that's where the real power in this is.
Right.
I don't have any personal retreats going on, but I'm open to going to retreats. There's some, like we talked briefly before we aired about going to Costa Rica.
Yeah.
I want to do some sort of a spiritual ceremony, ayahuasca, anything. I just need to get into warm weather and earth.
I feel that. Yeah. In the Midwest. Let's get to somewhere where I can put my toes in the dirt again and it's, not frozen solid.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
What else? Oh yeah, that's I've got my 2 boards right in front of me, so I keep glancing down, and there's like tons and tons of topics because I did a metaphysical class. Oh, that's the other thing. I'm working on telekinesis.
Fun.
Yeah, and that's kind of a fun thing. It's just another belief system thing that you have to have,
right?
And then you can start affecting matter. And if I have something more teachable, then I'll open up like a workshop for that.
Good. You let us know.
That sounds super exciting. I would like to play that game. And you know what? I'm going to say, if you are someone who's, struggling with whatever difficult emotions, distract yourself with something like telekinesis or that other kind of like exercise of some other kind of practice, because sometimes that distraction will lead you down a rabbit hole where you can start channeling the things you need to deal with, right? In a more, again, a more interesting way, a more fun way, something that, allowing those things to come to you while you are enjoying, practicing, or exploring this other new thing.
Yep. As you start to explore those things, you'll discover things about yourself that you didn't know you were able to do.
Right.
So, yes.
And things about yourself that you finally said, wait, this is what's causing this. Why am I even holding on to that?
Yeah.
It's like going through your house and doing spring cleaning at any point of the year. It doesn't make any difference. And you go through a filing cabinet and you're like, why am I holding on to this file folder? It's like 20 years old. And that's kind of the same thing.
That's exactly right. That was actually one of Bashar's formulas. That's the 5th thing that he added was go back and revisit your false beliefs.
Yep.
Because it's the false beliefs that are interfering with your growth. like manifesting the things that are right there in front of you. You don't believe you can, so you've got to get rid of that belief that you can't have what you want.
Right.
Getting rid of that belief will actually show you the things that you're desiring.
Exactly. That's why I used the example of spring cleaning.
Yeah.
But I mean, it's just, you go in, you're like, what the heck? Why do I need this? We'll get rid of it and repurpose it so you can use that energy, but in a more positive way.
Yeah. When you examine yourself very closely, and this is again the shadow work, but when you examine a belief system that you find and you hold it out in front of you and you say, is this true? 9 times out of 10 it's not. So why are you holding on to a lie?
Exactly.
Right.
Throw it away. Doesn't belong.
And you create space now, safe space for true stuff.
Yep.
Where you're at right now. You know, and maybe 10 years down the road, whatever's happening now, it doesn't resonate any longer. But at least for right now, it helps you continue to lift up. And it helps you continue bring that vibrational level up so high that then you start, like you said, Ty, attracting higher vibrational beings to you.
Yeah.
And leaving those anchors and those vampires behind.
Yeah. And as you raise that frequency, you're going to find synchronicities falling in front of you, and you just follow those. Now you're in the flow.
Yeah, exactly.
And that's where you want to be. That's where we all are just trying to look to be. And the synchronicity game is fun. Like, what's the next thing you can show me, universe, that speaks to me in a way that only makes sense to me? So that I can have my little internal inside joke with the universe giggle fest and let the person who is checking me out at the grocery store think I'm insane.
Right.
Perfectly fine, because guess what? I'll follow my synchronicity to some whatever, and it doesn't have to make sense to that person. Exactly. And I'm so happy to be the weirdest part of somebody's day anyway.
Absolutely. That's another powerful, that's a powerful thing, not caring about what other people think. And I'm almost 100% there, but it's so powerful.
Yes. Yes, it is.
No, it really is.
That's the advantage of me. I'm a little older. I'm already past it. I'm like,
you're like, I've been around long enough. I know all of your opinions. Most of them are awful. I'm not interested.
Exactly.
I learned some of that from you. So you were radiating that out years ago, and I recognize that, and that's what we're talking about. You're radiating out this energy, and I picked it up back then. I was like, wow, that's cool.
And you know what, y'all? We're in the age of Aquarius when things are just meant to work out because they just are supposed to. So just go ahead and let yourself follow that energy and
go be that freak.
But go and be that freak. The universe is emanating a resonance of supporting you in all of your weird. And nobody needs to agree with anything you say.
Well,
don't be afraid to fail. Don't be afraid of what people might say. Do it. Just do it.
Exactly. So thank you, everyone. We're almost out of time. Hold on, Ty. Thank you all. And as always, love you.
Love you. Thank you, Ty. It's been great. We'll bring you back again. You know we will.
I know you will. I love it. Thanks so much.
All right. Hold on.